Back here on HQ Spotlight, and the NFL coaching carousel has officially come to a halt, and we have a new crop of head coaches in the National Football League. That final vacancy has been filled as the Saints officially hiring Kellen Moore yesterday as their new head coach. And it all started with the guy on the left, with Mike Vrabel, having a homecoming of sorts, going back to the Patriots as their new head coach. Brian Schottenheimer, Haley, your team there doing a splashy hire.
So
I'm joking.
Right
Aaron
now.
Glenn, also a homecoming. Pete Carroll, Liam Coen going to the Jags, and then Ben Johnson going to the Bears. All right, back here on set, we have Kanell and Pete Prisco, and we're going to grade the hires more so. You know, Pete, you're kind of taking it from an angle of the fit. Danny, you're just going to grade the
so
coaches?
do you know what I do in college when there's I just give them all C's. Like, because you're going to look dumb if you give them all A's or you give F's. You really don't know. It is a total crapshoot. A lot of times, guys have the perfect resumes. They've had the perfect setup to go into a situation, completely flops. Other times, everybody hates the hire, but all of a sudden it works. Like, we just don't know. That's why I give C's a lot.
That's why I grade the situation and not the coach. I've been around this league a long time. Everybody says, oh, he's going to be look how great he was as an offensive coordinator. Then he gets into the room and the players look at him like he's an idiot and he can't lead the room and he won't let his coaches coach, and it's a bad situation. So
you talking about someone in particular?
No. Well, I know plenty of them.
That's a little point.
I know plenty of them.
Let's start with the most recent one. Of course, that's the Saints hiring Philly OC Kellen Moore. That was the last piece of the puzzle here. Pete, what are you grading this as the Saints? They missed the playoffs the last, 4 seasons, and they're hoping that Kellen Moore can come in and sort of turn that situation around.
The situation is an F.
Okay.
I mean, it's a terrible situation. He's really up against it trying to fix this because the cap situation is a mess.
Yeah.
They've been pushing out money year after year after year. At some point, you got to pay the piper, and now is the time. And you look at the roster, age has crept in on defense. You know, Cam Jordan's not, DeMario Davis, they're older players. So there's a concern there. And by the way, who's your quarterback? Is Derek Carr going to be the guy? Is he going to be able to play a full season? So there are so many questions with this team. I think it's a bad situation, which is why the job was still open, and it gets an F.
Don't you think you can tell these grades by how long it takes to fill these positions sometimes? Like, people are turning it around. And I would love to think that it was Kellen Moore was kind of waiting till the season was over, but that was not what it was. A lot of people wanted to have the same thing happen that happened in Jacksonville, where you force out Mickey Loomis, but the Saints were saying, no, we're not going to do that, which is, I think, why it finally ended up being Kellen Moore after a pretty lengthy search that took a while to play out.
But in fairness to him, it is one of 32 jobs, and sometimes, it passes you by, so you got to take it when you have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, there's only 32 to your point, so you got to take one of them. I did love, on HQ yesterday, we ran highlights of Boise State, Fresno State yesterday between Kellen Moore and Derek Carr playing against one another, and Kellen Moore blew out Fresno State and Derek Carr. So I'm interested to see if that conversation comes up. What I am also interested in, for different reasons, is what the heck the Cowboys are going to look like next year. I keep saying it,
You're not the only one.
We keep cycling on CBS Sports on our social media the headshots of all of the new coaches. It is such an uninspiring photo when you look at it that I'm trying to find a way to be positive because I love this team. I work for this team. I know a lot of these guys on the roster. And Pete, this is screaming D- to me, but I would love to know what your grade is.
That's generous for you.
Well, I wasn't asked to grade.
So we went flip-flop, so this was my
so
grade.
This is Danny. What'd you grade him, Danny?
I actually went C-, Haley, and maybe a little bit generous. No, it's a little bit lower. I do think, so this is one I actually think the situation is not as bad, except you do have Jerry Jones to deal with. But from a player standpoint, you do have Micah Parsons, one of the better defensive players in the league right now. You do have Dak Prescott, who's very consistent. I know people want to see him take that next step. You have CeeDee Lamb. You have some pieces that are there, and I actually like the addition of Matt Eberflus, who maybe wasn't a great head coach, but his history as a defensive coordinator actually is pretty strong. And whether we like it or not, I'm with you. I don't think it was very inspiring.
Tell me about Clayton Adams.
Oh,
what do we need to know about the offensive coordinator, Clayton Adams?
Well, that's one where who's going to be calling the plays? Is it going to be Brian Schottenheimer? Is it going to be collaborative effort for these two going together? But ultimately, I do think this is one of the better quarterback situations of the job openings that's out there. And as much as we make a big deal about the play caller itself, it is more times about the Larrys and the Joes than the X's and the O's. And I actually think it's pretty good here. And he does, we've seen nepotism is probably the worst in the NFL. We see you will get exposed or you will take advantage of the opportunity. Is it fair that he gets the opportunity ahead of some people? Probably not. But we've seen guys like Kyle Shanahan do it. He's been around a lot of teams. He's kind of worked his way up. But if he can coach, it'll come out.
Schottenheimer's been a coach for a long time in this league, and I know a lot of guys that really give him a lot of respect for what he is. And he's learned from his father. His father was a darn good coach. Now, he was a little outdated at times. He didn't want to throw the football when he probably should have thrown it a little more. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for Brian Schottenheimer. I think this is a good situation for him. I think he's actually, we get too caught up in the hot name of the week and everything instead of the guy who can just go coach football. And maybe, we don't know. That's why I hate grading these things, because, but maybe Schottenheimer can go in and lead the room and get the respect of the players. And it's more than just about X's and O's. You got to be able to handle your coaches, let them coach, and coach the players.
To your point, and I wonder if he mentioned this on purpose, like kind of standing up for himself, but he mentioned the players that were at his press conference. When he was doing that, he said, hey, I appreciate you guys. And he called out like 10 players who were veterans in that locker room. That will be, that's always priority number one, is get the locker room to buy into what you're selling. And it feels like he's already got a head start.
Yeah, and Pete, to your point about the hot name, Mike Vrabel, what was that, 2 cycles ago, didn't get a job, and then he was like the top guy this go around. So it's just, I guess it just depends on the season. Let's go to Duval County, shall we? Because this is
our trauma dump.
Yeah, this is like the messiest coaching hire situation, because Liam Coen removes himself, then Trent Baalke gets fired, then all of a sudden he's back in the mix, and Tampa Bay can't get a hold of him. To me, this screams A material. But I don't know if you agree.
Oh, wow. That might be a homer.
It's
Maybe
not,
a little bit.
It's not A, but it's a great situation for Liam Coen. And by the way, Liam Coen, the Bucs wanted him to take that contract. They told him, don't go talk to him again, or you're not going to have that contract. Well, he was going to go talk to him again. He kind of snuck in. He didn't mind Trent Baalke until Trent Baalke tried to tell him who to hire on his staff, and that was the end of that. He said, okay, I'm out. And then that's when they got rid of Trent Baalke. So it worked out. Now, whether he's a great coach, he's a great offensive coach. We don't know if he's a great coach. He's hired a very young staff, and that is, but people I talk to in the building, they love him, they respect him, and they think he's going to do a heck of a job. But again, it's a great situation. Why is it a great situation? Trevor Lawrence is there. You can build it around your quarterback, and I think when you look at that, they have a star wide receiver in Brian Thomas. You can build it around that pass game combination. So I like the situation. Now they just got to get bigger and tougher.
He was hired for one reason, and I get a little bit concerned when you hire coaches just to fix the quarterback or to bring out the potential in them, because you have to manage the entire roster. He's been great with quarterbacks everywhere he's been. Did a tremendous job with Baker Mayfield. Will Levis in college, he was really good. Can he bring out the best in Trevor Lawrence, who's been very up and down throughout his career? That, to me, will determine his fate. Can he take Trevor Lawrence to that next level? Because he's had flashes, he's got all the talent in the world, but he's got to get more consistent.
And so, Pete, that was a B?
B.
A B, okay.
B.
Just wanted to circle right back.
You just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Up from here. We can only go up from here.
Yeah, totally. It's a B for me, but I'm
I got a
very
C minus, so here we are. Okay, we talked about the youngest coach, obviously, in Kellen Moore. Let's talk about the oldest coach in Pete Carroll. I love this hire, honestly. I just love Pete Carroll, his energy, his zest for life, if you will, and I hope that the Raiders emulate that. Danny, but I'm curious, for your standpoint, what do you grade this hire?
So I was surprised by this hire, as I think most people were. I gave it a C+. Because I think you brought up something, Haley. I do think he's a really strong culture builder. I think he's hyper competitive at practice. He brings players and makes them compete every day. I love the message of positivity. I think he's got an energy probably of a 23-year-old, not 73. He brings that into the building, and he does have success in college and the NFL, so you don't have to worry about respect. And I actually like the hire of Chip Kelly to come in and run the offense for him from that perspective. Again, another guy who I think is a really good offensive mind, maybe wasn't the best head coach because he wasn't a culture builder. He wasn't somebody who liked managing an entire roster, just like calling plays. The big question mark is who's the quarterback going to be? Is it Shador? Is it a free agent? Is it a combination of both? That is very much a question mark. So for that reason, kind of kept it in that C range. But I root for him because it is a little bit outside the box.
Yeah, and they have money to spend, by the way. They can be active in free agency as well. But your grade was a C+, and that's because of his energy, because it can't be the quarterback situation.
No, that's right.
But they do have money to spend. Maybe they go get Sam Darnold. Maybe he's their quarterback. Because you mentioned Shador Sanders. It'll be tough for them to move up and get him. They have to do some maneuvering. But look, Pete Carroll will bring energy, and he will bring a toughness, and he will bring a culture. But if you don't have the quarterback, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I wouldn't be surprised if Shador drops to 6. You think? Yeah, we'll see. That'll be interesting.
Pete, there's
He's
your
a
guy,
quarterback.
Gardner Minshew.
There's your quarterback room right there.
Uninspiring.
That's a who's who of how not to.
Okay, 2-7,
I
2-5.
mean, that's a lineup right
This
there.
is like the most unique looking group of quarterbacks, I would argue, as well. The mustaches.
You guys saw the movie Usual Suspects, right? Where they had the lineup in there, and I was like, that's what it looks like right there.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew's looking real Duval County. He was a fit in Jacksonville, in my opinion. Let's transition over to Ben Johnson because, again, another hot name in this coaching cycle. He is now the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. Pete, when you think of the situation, because we were talking about the situation for Caleb Williams last year, and that's why there was a lot of high hope for the Bears. We obviously saw what happened, but, you know, as he's stepping in, what's the grade?
Well, it's a B+, and it's a good situation for him, and it's a good situation for Ben Johnson because he has a quarterback.
Yeah.
Now you can build it around him, and Ben Johnson's as creative as anybody in the league, and I think it just works from that standpoint. I like this fit for the two of them. Ben Johnson's a bright offensive mind, and Caleb Williams needs it.
You know what I worry about him is both he and Caleb's having to meet the expectations of what they thought they were going to be. Caleb Williams is supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread. Ben Johnson's been waiting here for this is third year in a row. He's been the hot name, so they're supposed to work. Sometimes those expectations are set so high. I just hope Chicago fans are patient.
Well, that's what they thought with Eberflus even, and Caleb, is that was going to be a match made in heaven. I just hope that it is a step forward for Caleb's sake. Let's talk about Detroit because obviously they lost the other half of their coordinators there, and Aaron Glenn. He now takes over in New York, New Jersey. I always get the geography mixed up, but he's taking over for the Jets regardless. Danny, it's a program that he obviously knows very well. He was drafted there. He spent a lot of time playing there. I think it's a great change, but I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think? Give us the grade. Is
All
it a
right,
C?
so Pete's going to hate this one. He's going to skewer this one. I went more with the guy that I played against that I actually got to know because I was on the Giants when he was on the Jets, played each other in the preseason. I love it from the perspective of his resume is one of those ones where I think it's really good. Great player, started the right way as a coach, started in scouting. He even mentioned that was one of the things, the pieces of advice he was given from Bill Parcells about how to learn how to scout players. Then he goes and he learns under some great coaches. He's learned how to build a culture there in Detroit, watching Dan Campbell, what he's done, because this culture needs a massive shakeup. But I do think the fact that he did play and have success as a player on that team, I think helps you gravitate, the players will gravitate towards you. But quarterback, massive question. What the heck? The roster, it's not exactly there. So I'll be rooting for him, but I love the resume.
You gave it an A.
I did.
You gave it an A.
Yeah, I was going to say you never said what the grade was.
I think Aaron Glenn's going to be a heck of a coach, but if he doesn't fix the quarterback situation, it doesn't matter what happens. And by the way, you have to give the grade, ping it a little bit. Rick Spielman's back in that organization.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we got
Oh, no.
Rick catching strays.
So, Pete, what would you give it if you had to grade it?
C+.
Yeah, it's not
quarterback.
great.
It's a quarterback situation.
Okay, so let's go back to, I guess, the first domino to fall in this coaching carousel cycle, and that's Mike Vrabel, who's heading back to New England to be the new head coach of the Patriots after the Gerard Mayo experiment just did not work out. Pete, what is the grade for you here?
A.
A, okay.
This is a great job.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic job because you have your quarterback. He showed last year he's the long-term answer. It's fixed. It's done. You don't have to worry. It's just like when Brady was there. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And they have a ton of money to spend in free agency. And Mike Vrabel is a guy that will command respect immediately in that building. I think it's a perfect scenario. It's an A, and I'm close to giving it an A+. I love this situation.
I haven't seen anybody grade it harshly. It just makes sense, and for all the reasons you said, with Drake May, with the roster that's young, they do have money to spend. He is a guy that I'm sure Tennessee fans are kicking themselves saying, how do we let that guy get out?
One concern. Will Josh McDaniels get with the time with his offense?
Yeah.
Because the offense is outdated. They did hire a bunch of guys that will run some of the newer stuff, so it'll be interesting to see on his staff. We'll see how he kind of assimilates it all into that.
I like that we're ending on an A, and it was almost an A+. Like,
I love
that's
this
good
job.
energy. Let's cut it right there. Pete Prisco and Danny Kanell joining us, giving out grades for these new head coaches.